What is up YouTube, IDM here, and welcome to probably a very long tutorial on how to use FutureRestore. And boy oh boy was this a learning curve to wrap my head around everything that's going on with FutureRestore. But honestly, once you understand what is at play, it's pretty easy to understand, and it's honestly pretty damn awesome to use this program. Now for this video, I'm going to be downgrading my iPhone 10 from iOS 14.6, which is currently the only signed version of iOS as of the making of this video, and I'm going to downgrade this iPhone to 14.5.1. 14.5.1 is not being signed, and that is the purpose of FutureRestore. It allows you to restore your iPhone to an unsigned version of iOS. Now, in a nutshell, what this allows you to do, in theory, is once you are jailbroken, it allows you to stay jailbroken. So if you were on iOS 13.5 jailbroken and you saved blobs for iOS 14.3, you could upgrade your iPhone to that version of iOS even though it isn't being signed. Now there's a few things at play here, so we're gonna hop onto the computer real quick. First and foremost, if you guys have any questions about how any of this works, I'm going to mention I am not an expert. I am pretty novice with this, but if you guys have any questions, definitely check out the Reddit Jailbreak Discord. I will leave the link for this in the description. In this Discord, there is a channel which is called FutureRestore Help. This is the place to ask. There are a ton of experts when it comes to FutureRestore found here, and big shout out to this user here, huge shout out, thanks a million for helping me through this. Pretty amazing. This is the written tutorial that this user wrote for me to help me understand everything that is at play when it comes to FutureRestore. A lot of the issues that happen, some fixes for Windows. So if you guys are doing this on Windows and you get errors, there is fixes for those, more information here. This is just loaded with a ton of information that was incredibly useful to use FutureRestore with my iPhone. So I wanted to mention this. Also, this tutorial will become outdated in the future. So if you guys are watching this and iOS 15 is out, this video is probably outdated. So what I'm going to do as I create these tutorials is I will be putting them into a playlist, and just check out the playlist link in the description and check out whatever is the newest tutorial at the top. I will keep the newest FutureRestore tutorial at the top of that playlist. Like I said, this will become outdated. So I'm going to try my best to explain everything at play here. It's pretty hard to explain, but hopefully you guys understand what is going on with FutureRestore and how it works. And I'm also going to mention this is probably going to be a rather long tutorial. But first and foremost, you need a blob saved for the version of iOS that you're looking to restore to. I have shown many different methods in which you can save your blobs for your device. You can save your blobs when you're jailbroken. You can even save your blobs when you're not jailbroken. But you cannot use these blobs unless you are jailbroken. So you have to be jailbroken in order to do this, at least as of the making of this video. And the reason is because we need to set our device's generator. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So you need to be able to set your device generator in order for this to work. And currently the only way to set that generator is to be jailbroken. But blobs are still useful even though you aren't jailbroken, so I still recommend everyone to save your blobs because it could be used in the future to restore your device to unsigned versions. So it's a win-win when this stuff happens. There's nothing that is going to hurt the fact if you save blobs for every version of iOS as it's signed. Like I said, I have tutorials about how Blob Saver works and other stuff. I'll leave links in the description, but you need a blob, you need to be jailbroken, and then the next part that is incredibly crucial is the SCP and the baseband must be compatible with whatever version you're looking to restore to. Now think of SCP and baseband separate from iOS. Think of them separate from versions of iOS at least. So these kind of get updated in batches. So as you can see, these are the devices and these are the compatible versions of iOS that are compatible with the latest versions of SCP and baseband. Now, when iOS 15 gets released, chances are they're going to make a new SCP and baseband version that will make these incompatible. And when that happens, these versions of SCP and baseband will be unsigned and you cannot do this anymore. So in the future, this tutorial will not work. You will not be able to restore to iOS 14.6 because of SCP and baseband. Just think of it as separate, like I said, from iOS itself. There is versions of SCP, and as you can see, they're kind of in, batches. For the most part, it's every version of iOS 14. And then obviously the SCP and baseband are compatible for these versions because these devices are not supported on iOS 14. These devices ended on iOS 12. That's why I say it's kind of separate from iOS itself. So once these get updated, it does change the ability of doing this. And like I said, check out the Reddit Jailbreak FutureRestore help section for info on SCP and baseband. But with that being said, this kind of helps explain what we're doing. So SCP and baseband are compatible for which version I'm going to do. I'm going to do 14.5.1 on my A11 iPhone 10. So as you can see, I can restore my iPhone 10 to any version in between 14.3 and 14.6. So this includes 14.4, 14.4.1, 14.4.2, and 14.5, etc. Anything in between, I can restore my iPhone to those versions. And like I mentioned, if you guys are on older versions than this, like iOS 13, you can upgrade your iPhone using FutureRestore to 14.3 or 14.6, anything in between, as long as you have that blob saved for that device. So that is SCP and baseband. Extremely hard to explain. Hopefully that helped you guys understand it. So now that you know the requirements of being able to use FutureRestore, like I said, you need the blob, you need the SCP and baseband to be compatible. The next thing you can do is go ahead and install FutureRestore itself. I'll leave the link in the description. So just go ahead and install it. It works on Linux, Mac, and Windows. Of course, Mac is the preferred method. It does work on Windows, and there are some Windows errors that can happen that I'm going to mention real quick. So if you guys are on Windows and you get some errors like error 3, error 8, error 10, aka the IBEC error in FutureRestore, there is written tutorials on how to fix that. So those are very common errors on Windows, so just watch out for that. As you can see, just make sure you have drivers and everything directly from Apple and not from the Windows Store or whatever. So if you guys get errors on Windows, there is information on that. But just go ahead and download and install FutureRestore. I've done it on Mac. I've already done it. As you can see, there it is in the dock. And more specifically, this is FutureRestore GUI. I think this is the easiest version to use. So now that you have FutureRestore, you also need the firmware of the device that you want to restore. So like I said, for this tutorial, we're doing iPhone 10. Make sure you know exactly which model of iPhone you have. As you can see, for iPhone 10, there are two different versions. There's a global and GSM. Just make sure you do your research on Google to figure out exactly which version you have. I have iPhone 10 GSM. As you can see, iOS 14.6 is the only signed version from Apple, but I'm going to be restoring to iOS 14.5.1, so we need to download this version of iOS. And for whatever reason, the download button doesn't work for me on Chrome, but what I can do is copy the link here. I can create a new tab. I can paste in the link and click enter, and it will begin downloading that version of iOS. So iOS 14.5.1 for the iPhone 10 GSM. Now I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to cancel that. And as you guys can see here on my desktop, I do have the IPSW, so iPhone 10.3, iPhone 10.6, 14.5.1, and then I do have the blob that I manually saved with Blob Saver, which I had saved right on my computer. So this is the blob. If I go in here, as you can see, it is for my iPhone 10.6, and it is for 14.5.1. A little bit of info on blobs. It has to be for your device specific. So if you guys have an iPhone 10 GSM, I can't send you this blob and it's going to work for you. It is device specific to your iPhone. You cannot use other people's blobs. That does not work. So the next thing we're going to need is going to take place on the iPhone. So we're going to go ahead and jump onto the iPhone. So again, iPhone 10 GSM, it's on 14.6. We'll go into general and about just to show you guys 14.6. This iPhone is in the jailbroken state. You have to be in the jailbroken state in order to set your generator. You have to set your generator in order for it to restore properly. Otherwise, you'll just get an error in FutureRestore and it won't work. Now, I know some people are going to mention, hey, on Taurine and Uncover, you can set your generator when you jailbreak your iPhone. So if you go into Taurine here, as you can see when you go into settings, you can set the nonce generator. And you can do the same thing in Uncover. So there's your generator. Of course, you can edit this generator to whatever generator you have. It is not recommended to do it that way. It is recommended to do it through terminal and set your generator that way, because from what I understand, setting the generator with the jailbreak itself is very hit or miss and doesn't work very often. So don't worry about those features. If there's updates in the future, like I said, of course, I will do updated tutorials on this stuff. So don't use Uncover or Taurine to set your generator. You need to manually do it through terminal. Now to find your generator, we're going to hop back to the computer here, and I'm going to go to my blob. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to do open with, and I'm going to go into text edit. This will allow me to view my blob in text form. Now we need to find our generator in this blob. And to do that, on Mac you do Command F, or on Windows you do Control F. This allows you to search the text document. And as you can see, all I did was I simply typed out generator. And once you've typed generator, just click enter, and it will take you to your generator. And this is the generator right here. This is the one you need to use on your iPhone or your iPad. So when you set your generator, you need to set it to this specifically, which is found in the blob. So it's specific for the blob. And as you can see, I have a simple generator. It is just 0x and then 16 ones. For the most part, that's usually what it is set at when you save your blobs. But it might be different, and you just need to verify that in your blob. It could be a bunch of random letters and numbers as well. So just remember your generator. You can copy it from here and paste it into your iPhone when we get to that point. So just remember what your generator is, write it down or copy it and put it somewhere, because you will need that. Now back on the iPhone, like I said, we're in the jailbroken state. Cydia opens. So again, on Uncover or Taurine, just make sure that you're in the jailbroken state. That's very crucial. Now we will need to add and install a couple of packages. So first off, I'm going to go into the Taurine repo here. Actually, I'm just going to search it for you guys. It is NewTerm 2. So you need to install NewTerm 2. So go ahead and click on install. It's actually going to install a few different packages. So install NewTerm 2. And then the next package you need, actually we'll go into my installed. You will need this package here, which is dimentio. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I apologize if I'm wrong, but you need dimentio. This allows you to set the generator. And that does require another repo. It is the one Conan repo. As you can see here, it's under system, and there is dimentio. Now, when I installed this, it automatically installed libkrw. So if you guys are on the Uncover jailbreak with Cydia, you need to make sure libkrw is installed as well. If you're on the Taurine jailbreak, it's a different package. You need to make sure it's libkern rw. I will leave the package information down in the description, which with each utility or package you need from Cydia or Sileo, depending on which jailbreak you have. It does vary from jailbreak to jailbreak. But for check, rain, and uncover, it is libkrw, and that is installed. Again, that's another critical package to have installed in order to do this. So now that you have NewTerm, you have dimentio, you can go ahead and launch NewTerm. Now there is a command that we need to run in order to set the nonce generator. Now I'm going to open up Discord and go to my awesome written tutorial to find the command. I'll put the command in the description as well so you guys can see that. So the command is su space root and then -c space quote dimentio space, and this is where you put in your generator, whatever it is that you have in your blob. So for me, it was 0, X, and then 16 ones. Like I said, this is whatever is in your blob. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 ones, and then you end in quotes. So in quotations, and then at this point we just click enter, and then the default passcode, if you guys have not changed it, is ALPINE. That is the default passcode, all lowercase. Click enter. And as you can see, now the nonce has been set on this iPhone. And we have set the nonce to the nonce that is generated in the blob. So now the restore should work like a charm. Now at this point on the iPhone, the next thing I want to mention is backups and restores. Before you decide to attempt this, make sure you have a backup of your device. Now I'm going to show you guys the way I like to do this. So we're going to go into settings, and I like to just use iCloud for all of my main stuff. So if we go into iCloud, I like to have it on for photos, mail, contacts, notes, reminders, Safari, so on and so forth. And what I do is I just use those as my backups. And I'll show you guys this once we restore the iPhone. You can create a backup for your iPhone, but the backups also are only compatible for certain versions of iOS. So currently, any backup that is iOS 14.5 and newer is compatible. If it's anything older than 14.5, so 14.4.2 and older, those are not compatible with one another. So it gets a little weird. That's why I don't want to do a full backup. But just take note, you guys are going to want backups of your device. You could lose everything on your iPhone if you do this wrong. Or if something happens, you could lose everything. So I can't stress it enough. Make sure you have a backup. The next thing I'm going to do now that I have a backup is I'm going to sign out of iCloud on my device. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to, actually it should be right here. I'm going to sign out of iCloud. So click sign out, and now I'm going to go ahead and put my passcode in quick. Okay, now I've input my passcode, so I'm just going to click turn off and sign out. So now on my iPhone 10, I am no longer signed into iCloud or my Apple ID on this device. And in turn, this turns off Find My and all of that as well. So I'd recommend you just sign out this way. It's easiest to do it that way. Okay, now that we are signed out, we are actually ready to restore this iPhone. So now we're going to hop back onto the computer. We're going to go ahead and we're going to launch FutureRestore GUI. Now I'm going to mention also, if you're on an iPad, which is Wi-Fi only, or a device with the A12 chip or newer, there could be some other things you need to install. Like I said, just check out the Reddit Jailbreak Discord for all of the details. That's where I got all of the details, but I'm just showing you this on the iPhone 10, so it's pretty easy. So the first thing you guys want to do when you open up FutureRestore is just download FutureRestore. Just make sure you have the newest version. So there you go, FutureRestore. This is version 194. And then now we're going to select the blob file, and that is available on my desktop. So here is the blob, which is right here. So we'll click on open. And then we're going to select target IPSW file that we downloaded from IPSW.me. So again, that's on my desktop, IPSW, open. And then you can specify the baseband and the SEP. I don't want to talk too much about that in this video because it gets really confusing. But sometimes newer versions of SEP and baseband are released and older versions are still being signed. So you can specify if you want to use the newer version or the older version. So you can specify, but that's basically what that allows you to do. And then also you can preserve data. This option is for upgrading. So if you guys are upgrading from, let's say, like iOS 14.3 to 14.6, you can turn on preserve data and it should keep all of your everything, all of your apps, your photos, basically everything, but only when updating. As you can see right here, it says update. Only when updating. And of course, remember, depending on how much stuff you have on your iPhone, this can increase how long this takes. So if you have a crap load of photos and apps and information on your iPhone, when you update or restore to an updated version, this could take much longer. All right, so we are ready to begin. We have the nonce set on the iPhone. We have our blob. We have the IPSW. And now we can just click Start FutureRestore. And then it has a pop-up here, your FutureRestore's version, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to ensure? Yes, this is the newest version. Okay. Now we should have a pop-up on our iPhone saying Trust FutureRestore. I would think. Maybe not because I've done this already, but we'll see if we get the trust option. So there's the trust. I'm just going to click trust, and then you can see we get the info here, unable to place device into recovery mode. And it's still doing stuff here. And it'll probably get to the point where it can't put it into recovery mode. This may be updated in the future, so you might be able to just be good. But as you can see, it couldn't put it into recovery mode, so we need to do that manually. Now, this can be device specific on the button combos as well. I believe iPhone 10 and newer are, or iPhone 8, iPhone 10 and newer are all the same. If you have an older iPhone or iPad, you might need to Google search how to put your device into recovery mode. But on the iPhone 10 and newer, it's pretty easy. Basically what I'm going to do is click volume up, click volume down, and then hold the side button and just keep holding it until it goes into recovery mode. It's pretty straightforward. Of course, your iPhone must be connected to your computer. Forgot to mention that. iPhone must be connected to the computer, obviously. So we're going to put it into recovery mode manually. So volume up, volume down, hold the side button, and just keep holding it until it goes into recovery mode. And this can take a little while. Even when the Apple logo appears, just keep holding it. And then I believe the Apple logo should appear one more time, and then it will go into recovery mode. And you'll see the little lightning connector connect to your computer. So there you go. Now on the computer, you're going to get a pop-up from your computer letting you know, maybe iTunes or whatever. Just cancel that out. So now my device is in recovery mode. Obviously, you can see it is. So now we can go back to FutureRestore and click Start FutureRestore again. So same process, yes and okay. And now that it is in recovery mode, it will begin to restore the iPhone. Now this part takes a little while. Obviously it is completely restoring the version of iOS I'm on. So I'm going to kind of fast forward this part and I'll be back as soon as it's done. And there we go. It says hello and the restore has completed. So what I'm going to do is go through this process here real quick. We'll set up manually. I'm going to sign into my Wi-Fi quick. Kind of funny how the other phones are like, hey, set up your new iPhone. We'll just let it go through its process here, and I'll show you guys the backup section, what I do. Like I said, you can restore your iPhone from a backup, but the backup needs to be compatible with whatever iOS version you're on. It gets real confusing when you do the backup stuff. So if you're curious on which versions of iOS backups are compatible with, just ask in the Discord. So we will do continue, set up later, passcode, don't use, and then here we go, apps and data. I just do don't transfer apps and data because I have all of my most important stuff in iCloud, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and sign into my Apple ID, and I'm going to go ahead and agree to that. It may take a few minutes to set up your Apple ID. Now it's asking me, this is kind of an extra security measure, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that now. All right, continue, set up later, don't share, continue, we'll do dark mode, standard, and welcome to iPhone. And now when we go into settings and general and about, as you can see, we have successfully downgraded the iPhone X from iOS 14.6, which is currently the only signed iOS version, down to iOS 14.5.1. So there you go. That was successful. That is how you can use FutureRestore to restore your device to an unsigned version of iOS. Like I said, you just need to make sure the SEP and the baseband are compatible. You also need to be jailbroken, and you also need a blob saved for that version of iOS, and then a physical download of that version of iOS as well. You need that downloaded onto your computer, but that is how you can use FutureRestore. Hopefully this tutorial helps you guys out. Again, like I said, check out the Reddit Jailbreak Discord. Info is in the description, and also in the future, check out the playlist link in the description that will have the newest and most up-to-date tutorial of FutureRestore there that I make. So just check out that playlist link. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely throw me a thumbs up. And if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to click that subscribe button. This has been Jeremy, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.